Mysterious rings around space rock might be carved by a secret moon. The secret lives of minor planets might be even more complex and fascinating than we thought. Scientists have discovered that a pair of gossamer rings circulating an asteroid-like chunk of rock in the cold reaches of space out past Jupiter are likely being shepherded by a tiny unseen moonlet. The rock is named chariklo, a type of minor planet known as a centaur. Minor planet, yes, centaur. An asteroid-like body that orbits the Sun in the space between Jupiter and Neptune, rather than being between Jupiter and Mars, where the asteroid belt is. Chariklo, just 250 kilometers or 155 miles in diameter, is the only known centaur or asteroid with rings, and it sports not one but two rings. How asteroids maintain rings is not known, but led the astronomer Amanda Sikafous of the Planetary Science Institute, a pair of scientists has conducted simulations and found that moonlets are a plausible explanation. Rings around minor planets have only been recently discovered, and only a small number of such systems are currently known, Sikafous says. There have been significant research into the dazzling rings around the giant planets. However, the mechanisms of ring formation and evolution around small objects are not well understood. We've shown that one of the possibilities for thin rings to exist around small bodies is that they are being sculpted by a small satellite. Rings in the solar system are not uncommon. Actually, half the planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, have known rings, and some dwarf planets do too. They usually consist of small dust and ice grains that circulate a body's equator, bound in gravitational orbit like a deconstructed moon. We're finding an increasing number of asteroids that have moons, so minor planets with small rings are not the weirdest things imaginable. But two very distinctly defined rings, as chariklo has, are interesting. Sikafous and her colleagues, computer science Mark Lewis of Trinity University, wanted to find out what keeps the ring so tidy. They conducted a series of N-body simulations using modified code originally designed to understand Saturn rings and altered different parameters to try to replicate the chariklo systems. The researchers found that a single tiny moon, as small as 1 kilometer or 0.62 miles in diameter, can maintain gossamer rings similar to those seen circling chariklo, shaping them and keeping a gap between them in a similar fashion to Saturn's shepherd moons. In fact, such a moon might even be necessary. Planetary rings will naturally spread or disperse over time. Chariklo exhibits two thin rings, a few kilometers in width. In order for the rings to stay this thin, there needs to be a mechanism to confine the material and prevent it from dispersing, Sikafous says. We actually show this in the paper by simulating a chariklo-like ring system that does not have a satellite, and we find that the width of the rings increases linearly with time. This is unlike the situation where there is a satellite in resonance with the ring material, which acts to confine the rings into the kilometer-sized widths that are observed. Interestingly, two rings are very close to a distance from chariklo known as the Roche limit. That's the critical distance in which the rings would start clumping together under gravity and forming moons themselves. However, a small moon can keep a ring perturbed enough that it remains a ring, so that's another factor that could be in favor of a moonlet. Unfortunately, given how small and far away chariklo is, and how much smaller any moon must be, we would not be able to get any pictures of such a moon without sending out a mission to get a bit closer. There may also be some indirect way of detecting whether or not there's a moon orbiting chariklo and keeping its rings in check. It's also not clear what the rings are made of. Ice probably accounts for quite a substantial portion, but we don't know how big the particles are or how they interact. Finding out these details will help figure out what exactly is going on with this fascinating object. And this was published on Planetary Science Journal. And this is on Science Alert by Michelle Starr. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.